Good morning, class. Can you hear me? Hello. Can you hear me, class? Okay, today we are going to, I suppose that yesterday was my the last day, but I was asked to take another lecture. So today we are going to discuss about the pancreas. Pancreas is an important organ, vital organ of the human body. So because in the previous lecture we couldn't discuss about the chronic pancreas. So today I have made a few slides to discuss with you about difference between the acute and chronic and what are the genetic links between the two. So pancreas, this is the pancreas. You know the structure of the pancreas if you remember your anatomy knowledge that pancreas is lying below the stomach on the left side of the abdomen upper part, and this is connected by the duodenum through pancreatic duct. So this is the pancreatic duct. This is the pancreatic duct. These are the acinine lobules. I told you that the pancreas has alpha receptors, beta receptors, and other receptors. So alpha receptors, they are responsible for the secretion of glucagon, and beta receptors, they are responsible for the secretion of insulin. Insulin is an anabolic hormone, and glucagon is a catabolic hormone. So all the breakdown and synthesis inside the body is brought by these hormones. So in addition to these two important functions, it has another important function that this is always all the time. I told you that pancreas, it makes 8 cups of pancreatic juice every day for the digestion of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So this is the gallbladder, and gallbladder, this is the cystic duct, and this is right and left hepatic duct. These are forming the common hepatic duct. When these common hepatic duct and cystic duct, they unite, they form the bile duct, and this bile duct, it unites with the pancreatic duct, and both of these from here all the contents of the carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are coming in the digested form, and for further digestion the pancreatic juice, it mixes with it, and both of these openings, they bring together and they make a common orifice inside the duodenum, first part of the duodenum. This is the first part of the duodenum, and this is called the ampulla of Vater. So from here, this is the part where all the digestion is taking place, and trypsinogen is activated. And trypsinogen is an enzyme which is being formed by the pancreas, and in case of acute pancreatitis, this enzyme is activated. So why this activated? It would be due to the injury to the acinar cells. These are the acinar cells, or there could be impaired secretion of proenzymes. Trypsinogen is formed by the trypsin. So trypsinogen is a proenzyme. It forms a trypsin enzyme. So there is impaired secretion of trypsinogen, or there could be alcoholic abuse due to alcohol intake. It also leads to the acute pancreatitis, one of the commonest cause in our society. And gallstones are very common, very much common. Gallstones, they cause the obstruction at this level, gallstone, and they don't let the juices to come and mix with the pancreatic juice. So there will be obstruction, and there will be retrograde movement of the bile juice, pancreatic juice. So what happens? There is dilation, and it causes inflammation of the pancreas. So this is called acute pancreatitis. So these are the common causes, like injury to the acinar cells, impaired secretion of proenzymes, alcohol, and gallstones. You can further go into the detail, like this is stomach, and pancreas is lying below the stomach. And this is the pancreatic duct opening into the first part of the duodenum. These are the gallstones. If they get impacted in the duct, I told you what would happen if they, for example, they are impacted here. So they will be retrograde flow of the pancreatic juice. There will be dilatation, injury to the acinar cells due to the stagnation of pancreatic juice into the acinar cells. It will lead to ischemia, necrosis, inflammation. All the signs of acute inflammation will be there. So this is how it will look like in case of acute pancreatitis. This, and when it becomes prolonged, this is not treated, this obstruction is not being removed. So what will happen? It will become chronic. This is acute case and this is chronic case. You can see macrophages, brownish coloration, hemosiderin deposits. So this is how the acute is converted into chronic form. So in acute pancreatitis, there are two phases. Early phases within lies in the first week after injury, and late phases after first week. And it becomes severe. So in mild cases, there is no organ failure. It keeps on working, and nature has given this opportunity to this organ that it will not go into failure. It will wait for the remedies to be done. So if the mild form is not cured, so it is converted into moderate. There is moderate organ failure in less than 48 hours. So the remedies should be done within 24 hours. Before 48 hours should be rectified. Obstruction should be rectified. If this is not done, it goes into moderate form. Sorry. It goes into moderate form in less than 48 hours. And if still persists, if the obstruction still persists there, it goes into organ failure. It becomes severe. So there are two types of complications. Less than 4 weeks, there is peripancreatic collection, and more than 4 weeks, there is pseudocyst. There is edema of the pancreas. And if it becomes necrotized, you know necrosis, this is the failure of blood supply to the organ. So there is necrosis of the organ in less than 4 weeks. There is acute necrotic collection, and in more than 4 weeks, there is walled of necrosis. It becomes chronic. There is organ failure. It will not come back to its original function. So this is how the acute phase is converted into chronic phase. So acute pancreatitis is an acute emergency, and it should be treated very actively and amicably within time period, within 24 hours or less than 48 hours. So acute pancreatitis, it can cause systemic organ failure, shock, acute respiratory distress syndrome, acute renal failure. It can cause disseminated intravascular coagulation. There is pancreatic abscess, pancreatic pseudocyst, and duodenal obstruction. These are the complications of the acute pancreatitis, and in case of chronic pancreatitis, there is pseudocyst, there is ductal obstruction, there is malabsorption, steatorrhea. Steatorrhea is a diarrhea, is a sort of diarrhea in which the color is paler and more pads are visible in the fecal matter. So due to malabsorption of the fatty acids. And secondary diabetes. And obviously when there is chronic pancreatitis, all the organ failure, beta cells will not produce insulin. There will be diabetes mellitus because of the lack of insulin. So these are the complications of chronic pancreatitis, and above are the for acute pancreatitis. Now, pathogenesis of acute pancreatitis is in case of ductal obstruction, it could be due to gallstones, or in alcoholics, it leads to interstitial edema. There is impaired blood flow and ischemia. You can see this table, this one. In case of acinar cell injury, what happens? The reason is the same: alcohol, drugs, trauma, ischemia, viruses. They will lead to release of intracellular proenzymes and lysosomal hydrolysis. So these hydrolysis and proenzymes, they will lead to the activation of enzymes. There is acinar cell injury. These enzymes are important, they play important role for the survival of injury. When these are not activated, there is acinar cell injury, and enzymes are activated and they will lead to interstitial inflammation, it will lead to edema, proteolysis, there is proteases, they will cause proteolysis, fat necrosis, which is happening due to lipase and phospholipase enzyme. These two enzymes are responsible for fat necrosis. Lipase and phospholipase, they are responsible for fat necrosis. Proteases are responsible for proteolysis, and elastases, they are responsible for hemorrhage. So these are the complications which are taken place in case of acinar cell injury. And then there is defective intracellular transport. This is mitochondrial metabolic injury, and this is also brought about by alcohol or gallstones. There is duct obstruction. This will lead to the delivery of proenzymes to lysosomal compartment. There is intracellular activation of the enzymes. Again, these combine together, both of these combine together, and ultimate fate is the acinar cell injury. So again, the consequences of the events will be same. You can see both of these ischemia, intracellular activation of enzymes and activation of enzymes. These are leading to acinar. The ultimate fate is acinar cell injury, and they are having the same consequences of injury. So this is the pathogenesis of acute pancreatitis. Now talking about the pancreatic carcinoma, there are 6 genes which are responsible. They are linked to an increased risk of pancreatic cancer. These are KRAS, CDKN2A, SMAD4, TP53, BRCA1, and BRCA2. These are the 6 genes which are held responsible for the pancreatic carcinoma. This is a genetic predisposition. So the people, these genes are transmitted from parents to children or from grandparents to grandchildren. These genetic mutations were identified in 5.5% of all pancreatic cancer patients, including 5.2% of the cancer patients without a family history. So this is not so much difference. Without family history or with family history, you can have these genes. There is transmission of these genes. So these genes are important: KRAS, CDKN2A, SMAD4, TP53, BRCA1, and BRCA2. These are the genes responsible for pancreatic carcinoma. Now, the morphology of pancreatic carcinoma is, this is highly invasive cancer, and it can involve the surrounding tissues and areas. You can see the surrounding tissues are like stomach, colon, spleen, because these things are side by side and one after one above the other. So there is only the separation is by the peritoneal lining. You know, our abdominal organ, they are covered by peritoneum. So there is separation is by the peritoneal lining. So these structures are one above the other. So below the pancreas, there is spleen, there is colon, adrenal gland, and this is desmoplastic changes. The histological changes is adenocarcinoma, moderate to poorly differentiated. The gland may be aborted, lined by cuboidal to columnar epithelial cells, and perineural neural invasion is present. Variant like adenosquamous, colloid, signet ring, and medullary type, this is present. So this is the histology, and above is the morphology. The main marker for the identification of pancreatic carcinoma is the blood test. This is an antigen marker. This is CEA, carcinoembryonic antigen, or CA19-9. This is the marker. This is the ID marker for the pancreatic carcinoma. Carcinoembryonic antigen and CA19-9. This is the antigenic marker, and blood test is advised for this marker. If this is present, so this is 100% confirmation the patient is suffering from pancreatic carcinoma. So this is the blood test, important blood test for the diagnosis of pancreatic carcinoma. The signs and symptoms of pancreatic cancer are you can relate the sign and symptoms. There will be jaundice because this is due to the obstruction of gallstones. So gallbladder is lying in the fossa beneath the liver. So we will be jaundice and related symptoms. Jaundice is yellowish coloration of the skin, eyes and sclera, and belly or back pain, because I told you this pain is is shooting in nature. It radiates from front to back. So this is backache. Pain in the abdomen starts from the abdominal side and goes back. So weight loss, cancer is a cause of weight loss because there is poor appetite, anorexia, nausea, vomiting. You cannot take much amount of food. So the patient loses weight. There is gallbladder enlargement, liver enlargement because of obstruction. Everything is, there is retrograde flow of everything. So there is blood clotting because liver is also not working well. So clotting enzymes, they are not being formed by the liver. Diabetes due to the lack of insulin. So you can relate these signs and symptoms by thinking the physiology or biochemistry, what is going inside the pancreas. So you can relate these signs and symptoms according to the scenario going on inside the pancreas. So test for the diagnosis of pancreatic cancer. I told you the blood test, which is confirmative, 100% confirmation, CEA, CA19-9. This is the antigenic marker and this is advised by the blood test. Other non-invasive tests, they include ultrasound, computed tomography, scans, magnetic resonance image, MRI, and there is a PET scan. This is called positron emission tomography. This is another scan. This is more advanced scan, and MRCP. And this is a retrograde cholangiopancreatogram. This is another test in which the pancreas is visible very clearly, and biopsy. Biopsy is gives the histological picture. So these are the non-invasive tests which you do for the diagnosis to confirm your diagnosis, although the confirmation has already been made by the blood test. But for further elaboration, we will go through these tests. So this was all about the pancreatic carcinoma, pancreatic acute and chronic pancreas. Any question? Any question, class? It was a small topic today, as we have already covered all of the subject. You can ask me any question from your previous lectures. If you have any query, because you might be studying your endocrinology nowadays, you are going to have your test on 15th, 16th of this month. So you can ask me your problems. We have a lot of time. MRCP for diagnosis of pancreas. MRCP is, this is the, M stands for, I forgot, M. R is retrograde, C is cholangiogram of pancreas. This is a sort of X-ray. So the dye is injected and the dye will travel through the pancreatic duct into the ductules, then into the acini, and it will localize the site of injury. So this is a test which is performed for the elaboration of further to localize the site of injury. So this is MRCP. R is for retrograde, C for cholangiography, P for pancreas, and M is, let me see it. Magnetic, yes, magnetic resonance cholangiography. Good. This is magnetic resonance cholangiography. Thank you, Amna. This is magnetic resonance cholangiography. Any question? Any other question? If you don't have any question, then I will ask you question. Boys, any question? We have still 35 minutes. Lots of time. Okay, let's have a question answer session. What are the enzymes responsible for acute pancreatitis? In case of acute pancreatitis, what are the enzymes you will send for investigation? Serum amylase and lipase. Good. Serum amylase and lipase is the enzyme, and these should be sent before 12 hours, because after 12 hours their level will decline. Trypsin is an enzyme, but this is for in cases of CA carcinoma, and amylase and lipase are diagnostic for the acute pancreatitis. Trypsinogen is also there, but this is not of so much significant. Its level, they remain high for 48 hours. But amylase and lipase, they go up, and after 12 hours, they decline. So these are more diagnostic as compared to trypsinogen. So what are the genes linked to the pancreatic cancer? Genes which are linked to the pancreatic cancer. BRCA1, 2, P53, these are latest, tell me the latest thing which I told you just now. These are the genes, ARAS, CDK and 2A, SMAD4, TP53, and BRCA1, 2. You will have to write all the 6 genes. So this is, and what is the antigenic marker for acute pancreatitis? CEA and CA, and another is there. ATM stands for automated teller machine. So this is attached PET scan and all. Ali Johns, the antigenic marker I told you, CEA and CA99. This is this one. CA99 is the antigenic marker, and CEA. Both of these are diagnostic, 100% diagnostic for the CA pancreas. Yes. And what is the morphology of the CA pancreas? Histology and morphology of CA pancreas. This is the morphology. This is highly invasive cancer, and it can invade the surrounding organs and structures like colon, spleen, adrenal, and desmoplastic. Then histologically, this is adenocarcinoma, moderate to poorly differentiated. And these glands are abortive, lined by cuboid to columnar epithelium. Perimular invasion is present, and variants like adenosquamous, colloid, signet ring, medullary type can be present. Any other question? Except this pancreas, you can go through your previous lectures and tell me your problems. You can ask me your problems. We can revise this topic starting from the first slide. Take some time to read this. What are the causes, most common causes of acute pancreatitis? These are alcohol, gallstones. Gallstone comes number one. Gallstones, alcohol abuse, then injury to the acinar cells, impaired secretion of proenzyme. These are the four most common causes of pancreatitis, acute pancreatitis. Number two, how the acute is converted, transformed into chronic pancreatitis by the action of inflammatory enzymes. When there is blockage of the gall duct and they lead to dilation, there is stagnation, retrograde flow of the pancreatic juice, and it leads to necrosis, edema, inflammation. These are the early and late phase changes. There are two phases in acute pancreatitis, the first week and after first week. Then as the days passes, it becomes severe, mild, moderate, and severe form. And if it goes longer than 48 hours, there is necrosis starting from the edema and organ failure. These are the complications of acute and chronic pancreatitis. This is the pathogenesis. Please, you can please, just a minute, I cannot read your. Serum. Could you please tell us the syllabus of next test? Exactly, we are having test one of an. Okay, test one includes diabetes mellitus, all diabetes mellitus, including everything of diabetes. Number two, pancreas, acute and chronic, CA, everything about pancreas, as I told you in the lectures. Then all the clinical chemistry tests, which is including all the stimulation test, suppression test, and various type of tests of every gland. So these tests all are included in the clinical chemistry. So clinical chemistry, you know, this consists of all the chemical tests which are linked with the hormones which I taught you in your endocrine. So this is not so that this is coming from thyroid or pancreas or adrenal gland. All the tests which I told you, chemical tests which are performed in the lab, as I told you in my lectures, they are all included in clinical chemistry. That's it. And the clinical chemistry course for reference, you can ask your principal to give you a permission to take these lectures from DME, because I'm not permitted to give you my lectures directly via mail. You can ask either Professor Shaukat or principal. Better to ask principal to permit you to take these lectures. Are you clear? Please type the syllabus. I have given syllabus to your CR, Ali Jaz. Vishal, I have given the syllabus to Ali Jaz. Ask him. Are you clear about the syllabus? And paper 2 includes all the endocrine hormones, starting from the hypothalamus, pituitary gland, thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, your adrenal gland, their hormones, their signs, symptoms, pathology, physiology, morphology. But the clinical tests which are performed in the labs, they are included in clinical chemistry, not in the endocrine. Although they are included in your course, they are taken from your book. But these, you leave those tests for paper 2. Paper 1 includes those tests, not paper 2. Mariam, are you clear with the course? Ahmed Ishtiyaq, I have given your syllabus to your CR, Ali Jaz. You can take it from him. I mailed him a few days ago. Diabetes is included in clinical chemistry type 1, paper 1. In paper 1, all diabetes, type 1, type 2, all diabetes are included in paper 1. This will not come in paper 2. Okay? As it is not my UHS syllabus. No, how come UHS syllabus? Diabetes is included in paper 1. Diabetes and pancreas. I'm repeating again and again. Diabetes and pancreas. You cannot escape from this. Diabetes, pancreas, and chemical tests you taught us. Yes, this is the course. Yes, you are right. Diabetes, pancreas, and chemical analysis. All the tests, chemical tests which are performed in the lab for the diagnosis of endocrinal hormones, these are included in the clinical lab. Diabetes is the major portion, pancreas and clinical tests, they are also. As I told you, CRH stimulation test, growth hormone stimulation test, then your infertility test and infertility, this is also included in your paper 1. So all the lectures which I took you after finishing the endocrine course, when we started the clinical chemistry, I told you that we are going to start the clinical chemistry now. So starting from that day, these total lectures on clinical chemistry are, I think, 8 or 9 lectures are there. You can ask from the DME department. Are you clear? Everybody clear about the course of paper 1 and paper 2? Okay, I hope there should not be any confusion as I'm repeating again and again the course and what are included, what are excluded. In paper 1, you have 3 things, and in paper 2, all the endocrine hormones. Welcome. Any question? Any confusion regarding the previous lectures? I hope every one of you is safe from corona. You and your families are safe from corona, and you are taking precautions and telling other people how to protect themselves. Aren't you? Your total class is 155 people in your class. Everybody is okay? 133 are present in the class. Everybody okay? You contact each other. So 153 people and their families are okay? Any other question? So what precautions are you taking for coronavirus? Tell me the precautions, then I'll add something new in your info, because this is the um, pandemic situation, so we all should revise our knowledge. What precautions are you taking in your home regarding coronavirus? Isolation, yes, isolation, obviously, staying home, washing hands, yes. Uh, what other? Cleanliness all around, everything should be clean. Sanitization is not so important at home, because you soap is sufficient for your sterilization. So sanitizers are not available in the market, and they are too much expensive for everybody, cannot take and buy every now and then. So you can make your sanitizer at home. For that, I'll tell you tip that take 550 ml of water, 550 ml water. And if you have Dettol at home, everybody has Dettol in his or her bathroom. So take 3 caps full of Dettol in 550 ml of water and make a sanitizer. So put it in the spray bottle, and you can sanitize your handles, your doorbell, not doorbells, your gate locks, and all the things which are being touched by other people. You can sanitize them. And mopping on the floor by adding vinyl or Dettol in the water. 10 liter of water, you can add 1 cap of vinyl bottle. These are the ways. Then in the kitchen, you can wash your vegetables, your everything in the grocery which is being brought by other people in the kitchen. You should you should see their packing, and you can wash them before using them. Vegetables and fruits, we wash them, but these bread covers, plastic covers, you can clean them before handling it and opening it, because after handling the plastic cover, you are putting your hand inside the bread. You're holding the bread from your same hand. So non-touch technique, you might have heard non-touch technique. So most of the time when you see that a door is a handle is very excessively used, you can use your elbow, your knees, or these are the different ways to invent your ways yourself. When you are put in a situation, most of the things we invent ourselves. So this is each and everything is not written in the books, and most of the things we do our own. So vegetables and fruits, they should be washed properly. Then mutton, chicken should be cooked properly. Do not take raw chicken, and do not buy these takeaway foods, because they're food handlers. They can be asymptomatic carrier. So do not buy any eatables or takeaway services from these KFC, McDonald's, and everything. So even I have stopped newspaper in my home, because I know this is also spreading. Actually, the mode of spread is not exactly known by anybody. So we are following the whole world. So as we know, this is pandemic and this is a large molecule. It has a life on the surfaces. But I think when the virus do not have a host, it degrades very early. So, but just for your precautions, you should wash everything before handling anything. You should take care, and then the cleaning of your cleanliness of your homes, floors, things, furniture, your clothes. Then you can put your clothes in the sunlight. Today, nowadays, the sunlight, we have a temperature more than 40 degrees centigrade. As this virus is killed above 70 degrees centigrade, but that much of temperature we don't have. But if you spread your clothes in the sunlight for 6 to 7 hours, yeah, that would be sufficient to sanitize your clothes, your shoes, and don't take your shoes, the shoes which you wear outside your homes, you put them off before entering into the rooms, or make a stand outside your in your porch or on the outside of the main door. So you change your shoes before entering into the house. So this is the way you protect your floor, your entry of virus into your homes. Then you can take, you should take, rather everybody should take a shower or bath morning and evening, because this is hot weather, and there is no harm in taking shower 2 times a day. Then cleaning of your teeth, your nose, your hair, everything. You know, these teachings are also in our Islamic education. So if we follow the Islamic education, we can prevent its spread. Then home isolation, and do not go to your relatives, or you should stay home. Stay home means you are not allowed to go anywhere. So this is the meaning of staying home. So anything else regarding coronavirus? Do you have any question, or I should put a question in your paper regarding coronavirus if you are not going to tell me anything about coronavirus? I'll add a question about coronavirus in your chemical pathology, I think. What do you say, class? Should I add the question regarding coronavirus? Another subject will be added in your course. Okay. Anything else? Okay, tell me the actions of antidiuretic hormone. What is central diabetes insipidus and what is nephrogenic diabetes insipidus? Tell me the difference between these two. Anybody? The difference between central diabetes insipidus and nephrogenic diabetes insipidus. Don't know? Nobody knows? Boys? Nobody knows about the difference? From where ADH is coming from? Which part of the pituitary gland ADH is coming from? It means we haven't started your reading the course. Nobody knows about my questions. Posterior pituitary, yes, but posterior pituitary is the storage house. Actually, this is coming from the uh, neurovascular bundle in the stalk, pituitary stalk. This is produced there and stored in the posterior pituitary. This is not produced in the posterior pituitary. Posterior pituitary is the storage house. So, and what are the actions of oxytocin? So class, please start reading your endo and clinical chemistry. They are very important subjects. And we are left with 6 minutes. Lactation, uterine contraction, good. Yes, in the uterine contraction during delivery and lactation, this acts on the mammary glands. So what are the actions of ADH? Water resorption, yes. Water resorption by acting on the collecting ductules of the nephron. And this is maintaining the osmolality. The main action of ADH is the maintenance of osmolality of the extracellular fluid. And water resorption. Obviously, when this is reabsorbing water from the collecting ductules, so this is your extracellular fluid will not get osmolar concentration. And the main difference between the central and nephrogenic is when the cause lies in the brain, this is central, and when the cause lies in the kidney, this is nephrogenic ADH, diabetes insipidus. So this is the main difference. And this substance, which amino acid is introduced in growth hormone stimulation test? Which amino acid, which analog of amino acid is introduced for the growth hormone stimulation test? Okay, class, this is all from my side. Our course is complete and finished, and today I hope this is my last lecture. Every day I hope that that is my last lecture, but it's not so. So today this is the last lecture, and I hope you will do your best in your test, both in the clinical chemistry and in the endocrine. And good luck to you. Stay safe and stay blessed. Thank you very much for your cooperation and understanding. Allah Hafiz.